Let me go ahead and start the recording now. Folks, welcome. It's so great to see all of you here this morning, late in the morning, not too early, as somebody mentioned. My name's Tony Ashe. I'm the guy who's probably sent you all 1,000 emails.
Teaching specialist, and my role has just been to help schools where they are and train teachers on how to use the tools that technology provides naturally in their classrooms. And so one of those, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina now, but one of those is CS First. And I actually, CS First wasn't even developed back when I was teaching or first starting with adults, but this is a program that's grown and it's a kind of a set curriculum. So we're going to go over it today, and I'm just going to give you some housekeeping for how we're going to do things. So we have everybody here in this chat, and on the right, so you have a chat area. Just make sure you keep yourself muted. You can use the chat area on the right to kind of interact with your peers, those people in attendance, but I am going to be presenting kind of a slideshow and working through that. And we'll have some times where on top of that slideshow, you'll see a slides.app URL. If you need to ask me specific questions, so that way it's easier for me to kind of find the questions that have been asked rather than looking through the chat, I'm going to use the slides area. And I'll show you what that looks like on your screen once I get that open. And then if there's questions that you like that other people put, you can give it a thumbs up. If they're like, oh, that's not important, you can give it a thumbs down or not do anything at all. And that way it's easier for me to kind of gauge what things are important to you all that I answer. It doesn't mean I'm not going to answer your questions. It's just I'll answer the ones that are most important first to most of you. So we're going to walk through and show you what the CS First thing is all about. I know some of you have used it, and so maybe in the chat area you could help people who may be confused at any time or trying to have a clarification. That is fine. The whole idea behind this morning is to get you to introduce how you could do this, especially remotely, because it's almost a perfect fit for introducing coding, which CS First means computer science first. It's a Google program. So about halfway through, we're going to, you guys are going to join my CS First class and actually do an activity, probably like 10 minutes on your own. We'll still all be in the meeting, but we're not necessarily presenting. And then you'll be able to do that and kind of experience what it's like as a student. And then we'll look at kind of the teacher side. So now I'm going to share my screen. Won't really have my face up here anymore, but just wanted to show you that. All right. Let's see. All right. So you should see a screen that says CS First, and it says ask a question at slides.app.goo.gl/mfmbt. That is the way we can ask questions. So just to make sure we're all able to see that, if you want to go ahead and go to that URL, you could actually split your screen or have two screens showing at once. One side could be your question area, and the other side could be our live meeting. But if you go there, it allows you to ask questions. So I'm just going to put something in there just to test to make sure it's working. And you can also and I'll be able to see it on my end, whether you're asking questions or not. So you just have to type that area there. And if you want to, I'll also put it in the chat area. Now that it's up and going, I can add that to our chat page. Make sure you can mute your audio there. So we got some audio feedback. Somebody's playing some music. All right, so I see somebody did a thumbs up for a question, so that shows me that you can get in there. That's good. All right. Now that that's all done, let's get started with this. All right, so what is CS First? Okay, CS First is this ready-to-use curriculum. And before I start again, sorry, going backwards here. This is my information. So if you want to kind of jot it down or do a screenshot, so it's nick@blendedtechlearning.com. So that's my own little company. Or if you can just go on Twitter, it's just my first and last name. So it's Nick Finelli. And that's it. And I'll show that at the end if you need stuff and if you need information. But here we go. So this video is just getting started with CS First.
Hi, I'm Janelle. I'm an elementary school teacher in California.
And every video starts with this, every section of CS First starts with some sort of video. And there's actually video tutorials. And so I just wanted to show you this really quickly. Anthony, are we able to hear sound on this? Because I thought I enabled it, but I just want to double check.
California. I help teachers teach
computer
science using CS First. Google's free introductory computer science curriculum is designed for students ages 9 to 14. It uses instructional videos to help teachers introduce computer science to students. In this series of videos, you will learn about computer science, CS First, and its teacher resources. You'll get to try CS First as a student and create your first class. There is a companion deck linked on the right side of this video if you'd like to follow along.
All right, so the companion deck is actually part of what I'm using. So that's what's also nice about this is it gives you everything as a teacher you would need. So as you will learn, this program and what it's built for is built for you to kind of understand what the program is about, and then also how we may use it and what grade levels and things like that. So these are kind of the things we're going to be doing today. Is we're going to talk about computer science, CS First, learn about Scratch. We're going to have you do look at the curriculum. I'm going to have you test drive it and then create your kind of teacher class. And so that's really our goal for today, is to not only get you to experience it, but also to get you in the class and started. So typically, when we talk about learning about computer science, what is it and what isn't it? So making sure that we separate those. Computer science, I like to go with the isn'ts first. You know, it's not computer repair, it's not playing video games, it's not typing. It's more of a discipline about problem solving and enabling kind of a restructuring, rethinking mindset. And so that's, to me, helps me think about what computer science is. It helps us look at real world problems and use tools that computers can do in a quicker way to make something happen. So why computer science? Well, computer science, students can tell stories and you can also solve problems. So here's just kind of an example of showing how we're using this program called Scratch for our students to express and create things. So that's one way. Also, computer science allows us to design things. So think about game design, and game design involves so much problem solving and thinking and kind of iteration that it's a great process just to go through, even if you're not wanting to be in computer science or game design, because it has all those components that help us be better organizers of how we do any job. So design features are really good in this. The other thing is you can create artistic things. So computer science can be used to create art too. It doesn't have to be just all problem solving and things like that. It can be for creative endeavors. All right, so let's look at the CS First program. So first of all, what is it? It's this, basically it's Google's free already curriculum that introduces computer science. And they say for grades 4 through 8. And I would say you could probably go a little bit lower and a little bit higher depending on your students' abilities. But I would put it at that just because the questions and the types of skills that it's asking and teaching involve Scratch, which we'll see in a second, which has some coding in there and some JavaScript. But I would suggest more of the digital skills. So Google has a program kind of for the middle high school. It's called Digital Skills, or Applied Digital Skills. And that session is going to be on Thursday, and I'm doing that also. That's where I would gear more of my my older students, because then it's looking at more applicable things that you might use with Google, and not necessarily all coding, but just some components of that. But anyway, so it's this free curriculum. It's online, it's on your computer, you can access it anywhere, and you can monitor your students anywhere. So it's one of those programs that introduces coding, but also sets everything up for you easily. The curriculum, the lesson plans, even materials, all that stuff is there for you, and it makes it easy for your students. So they don't need to know computer science. If they do, it's even better, because then they could write and code things, not only in block coding, but they could do it in JavaScript. The curriculum is something that you could pick and choose from what's there, but you could also add things to it. There's instructional videos, there's step-by-step lessons. And to me, the best way of doing all this is to have you do it. So we'll make sure you get in there, but just wanted to show you kind of what is it about. So basically it's a curriculum that you can implement to your class and to your students, where they can work self-paced, yet you can still monitor what they're doing. And it involves coding and learning in lots of disciplines. Students, this is what they do. They're just going to follow the videos, the instruction, and then they get to build computer programs using Scratch, which is a free online program. There's no downloads or anything like that. And again, they're going to be either solving real-world problems or giving real-world situations. They can also share their work or show their work to peers. So there's lots of different things in there. And they can also work by themselves. So it allows all of that just right there in the curriculum. As far as for the teachers, you can pick your activities and choose whatever you want for whatever class, and then you can monitor along the way and see who needs help and who doesn't. It actually shows you what videos they watched, what activities they've clicked through and at least said they've done. But some of them are things inside of Scratch where you actually program, and then they would have to share what they've done in their program. Before NECS first started, I ran a Scratch camp. I just started it in my school, and we actually ran it during the summer, maybe 4 weeks. And we had kids from first grade all the way up to sixth grade taking Scratch camp. And we basically taught them how to use Scratch and taught them a little bit of coding. So we're going to get more into that too. But these are all about introduction to students computer science concepts, which could be like loops and if-then statements and things where logic comes into play, because that's really the beginning stages of any computer science, is understanding the logic that's involved with all the things that happen in our lives, especially when the technology is involved. So here's what's nice is all of these things not only are free and accessible online, but you can also get things mailed to you. So if you pick a particular kit, you will get the lesson plan, you'll get solution sheets, you'll get sample projects, you'll get badges and certificates and stickers and things like that. You'll get flyers, all of these things, if you choose kind of the larger plans. But all of those are available for you. It even sets up a place for your roster. It even gives you instructions on how to do this with your students. And so it could be run as part of your class, or it could be run as a club, like a separate thing for those who are interested. So you have lots of options here, especially with the online capability, because it is basically all online. Now, who developed this curriculum? So It was created by Google Teaching Fellows in South Carolina in 2015, and it was kind of part of a worldwide computer science education curriculum committee. And so it's also ISTE aligned, so that's also nice to know that we're doing things that are going to be helpful in that realm. So now let's look at Scratch and block-based programming. Just interested, and you guys can use either areas. Actually, I asked the question in the chat. Anyone used Scratch before? So I'm putting it in the question and answer area. So if anybody's used Scratch before, go ahead and thumbs up or thumbs down my question. It should be the last one. So if you scroll at the bottom in the Q&A, it should say if you used it. And you can just click on question and answer. Any used Scratch before? So we got 5 have used it, 2 have not, 9 to 4, it's going up. We have almost 70 people in here. So those people, remember to go to the slides.app.google/mfmbt, which you see right here on the slideshow, and that will show me whether, show you how I can do this feedback. So I like using the Q&A for larger audiences because monitoring the chat is very hard, but I can focus in on a specific question and it allows you to kind of thumbs up and thumbs down things. So we got some people, a good majority have used Scratch before. Right now it's like 12 to 5. Some people used it during the first quarantine, but yeah, they tend to forget it. It's one of those things like everything, you have to do it over again. Scratch is a little bit different than code.org, but it does have a lot of those same elements. Most block coding does. So thank you for answering that. So what is it and why do they use Scratch? First of all, it's free and it's web-based. A couple of years ago, they made it web-based, but before then it was a program you had to download. But basically it's block-based, and so you just snap the blocks under things and allow things to run. It's also nice is it's a 2D kind of modeling, so they can add pictures, background. You can set up your own scene with kind of a paint tool. So you have a paint tool that can change what is called your characters, which are called sprites, and you can actually make your characters have different movements in 2D because basically oh gosh, what's the word? Like the animation tools, you know, the animation tools where you kind of take a picture and then you move it a little bit and then you take another picture, the stop motion. And so what you can do is you can create a character look like he's moving it by switching back from one sprite to another. So the programming allows you to do that. So that's why Scratch is used. What's also nice is it creates, when you set up a student profile, it actually creates a username inside of Scratch. So they don't have to have a separate username. They just go directly to the activity and they're already in Scratch. So really there's just one logon for the students and they're in. I wanted to bring this up too because I am a Minecraft Global Mentor. And so even though this program is a Google program, I feel like Minecraft could also be used. So yes, there are components in there that are specifically for Scratch, but if it's asking them to do a specific activity, I would use those students who kind of know more about it or understand it, or even my higher level kids, and say, you know what, this is the idea, or this is the, you know, kind of the adapted version of it. Can you make this in Minecraft using MakeCode, which is Microsoft's program that's embedded inside of Minecraft? And can you do it in JavaScript, or can you do it in Python? So you do have some ways to kind of integrate some of these things inside of Minecraft, which is a 3D world rather than the flat Scratch world, which is 2D. And so to me, that would be just an integration you could. It would have to be adapted, but definitely something you could also consider, because Minecraft also has block coding too. All right, so let's look at this curriculum. Okay. So first off, you have the activities, and I'm going to see right here where it says g.co/CS First Curriculum. If at any time you want to go there, that's fine. We're going to be going there together anyway, but that's where all the curriculum is. And so it sets up the curriculum into activities for beginners, intermediate, and based on building their Scratch skills. So if you think about anything, if we're trying to scaffold learning, we're going to give them the basics before they can get to the next level. And so we have those kind of in the beginning, and those are just sample activities such as create your own Google logo, animate a name, things like that. And then besides the different kind of activities and the skill levels, you also have themes. So it's based on these kind of 6 themes. And so there's skills for most of these across all levels. So if you want to just focus on game design, you could start from a certain level and just do all the game design ones. Or if you want to focus on art, you could do that. Storytelling. I like to tell everybody to do storytelling because that's something we all have to do is tell stories or tell the narrative of what's going on, whether we're presenting something serious or something funny, something fiction, something nonfiction. We're all basically storytellers. So that's one I like to focus on. But there are these themes, and then within the themes, each theme includes 8 activities, which is basically 10 hours of video content. So you can spread them over weeks. You can just assign one activity until everybody's finished and then go to the next one. You got beginner all the way to advanced. So lots of opportunities here just in choice for you or for your students. If you want to give them, all of them, you can, and then allow them to pick and choose. That's also your prerogative. Once they are, basically when it's time to complete a theme, what they do is they basically complete the activities inside it. So there's usually about 10 hours. And one of the ideas when a theme is created is giving you a kind of a lesson plan, big scope of like what the entire theme is going to do. And so for the storytelling one, for example, the idea is to try to relate it to language and being able to write, and how to introduce computer science into ELA topics, whereas other ones might do different things. The materials, of course, lesson plans, videos, solution sheets, passports, if you need to kind of give them badges and things like that. It just depends. Topics covered in themes are usually around, the 4 C's. So creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. And so that's all built into the curriculum too. And the curriculum has different ideals also involved. So we were talking about the 4 C's, but really they kind of built on these ideals, which is courage to try new things, impact on the community and careers. So like, how does this actually why are we even doing this? Do they have confidence using something in technology, not only that's new, but maybe can do something they didn't realize? Bring students who aren't normally using coding or anything like that into the coding world and the computer science world, and then giving them challenges where they have to figure out what is wrong and why it's wrong and what they can do with it. Tony, thanks for putting up the link to the curriculum. All right, so we are going to test drive the CS First curriculum. So you don't have to go to this sign up first here, because I'm going to take you a different way, but students typically would sign up or go to the site, and you would give them a code, no different than like a Google Classroom code. You would give them a code to join the class. And we're actually going to have you do this step 1. So I'll type this into the chat area. So I'm going to have you go to g.co/CS First, and I am going to stop presenting this tab, and I'm going to present more of my whole screen so you can see. All right, so if I go to CS First, this is what it looks like. You have your curriculum, your resources, and your about page. You'll also notice on the right, there's going to be an area to sign in. Don't worry about that right now. Okay. And again, it's just going to reiterate all the things like no CS experience required, hands-on learning, always free. Then it shows the curriculum for every classroom. Here's the sign up. So everything is kind of done for you here. So just kind of follow along. So let's look at the part you need to. So you have to click sign in to get started. So now everybody go ahead and go to g.co/csfirst, which will take you to csfirst.com with Google. And I'll do that also so you can see the sign in for a student. That would be different. All right, so it says sign in blue. Go ahead and sign in. And before you choose that you're a teacher or a student, I want you to select that you're a student this time, okay? It's okay. You can be signed up as a teacher and a student, it's okay. So make sure you say, I'm a student, okay? Because this is going to create a student account and you're going to see what it's like for the students to go through this first. Once you choose I am a student, it's going to have a screen that's going to say student sign in. And in the student sign in, it's going to say new students or returning students. Go ahead and click on new students and then enter this code. So it's 2G54CJ. And that's the code to get into my class. So 2G54CJ. I'm going to do that myself too. G54CJ. Once you have that in, click on next. It's going to say, is this your class? It's going to show class code. It's going to show class name as Palm Beach County CS First. And the teacher is going to be Nick Finelli. You can click yes to join. All right. What it's going to ask you then is, do you need a new CS First username and password? You would select yes unless you are a returning student. So go ahead and select yes. And it's going to give you a username and a password. Go ahead and write that down right now. Find a sticky, find some sort of way that you can copy and paste this and know this, because this will be used for your login if you get out. So I am copying mine down too. As a teacher, you can actually change their passwords or reset things, but once they initially get in, then you get to see them. If you did this and you have, excuse me, we have some outside workers, sorry if that's a little loud. Once you have your username and password, go click on say yes, I wrote my username and password down, and click on sign in. It will show a dashboard, and on the dashboard to the right, it'll say student, and you'll be in green. It'll show current classes, archive classes, and profile. So this shows you as a student, they could actually be in multiple classes, kind of like a Google Classroom in a way. And they can join multiple classes depending on the teacher setting it up. But once they click on the class itself, then they can see what's in that class. So right now, it doesn't look like I've assigned anything. Double check to make sure. should have, there we go. You might have to refresh your screen. If you don't see current activities that says create your own Google logo underneath, then you might just have to refresh your screen. And I will double check on my screen to make sure we're all in there. All right, so after you write down your stuff, you're going to test drive it. So you're going to click on that, and you're going to do the project that basically says, and it says it for you, create your own Google logo. So it shows it's an introductory activity. It's 3 activities, takes 1 to 2 hours to complete. It has activities overview. It has examples of people using it. So that's kind of nice for you to see like what your final product could look like. It has materials, any lesson plans that offer step-by-step instructions, and the getting started guide for that, even shout out posters and stickers. So all of that is available. Even though they're the student, it is available for them to see some of those. If I go back to activities, you can see this is how the lesson works. It starts with 45 to 90 minutes of create your own Google logo. Then it has one for Valentine's Day and then one for Earth Day, because once they get a practice of doing it in the beginning, it sets it up. So all they have to do is click on start, and that's what you should do. This is what the curriculum looks like, and I'm going to give you about 10 minutes in a second here to start on your own. But really what the curriculum does is it shows it by number. It's going to show the video itself, so you can see this is 4 minutes of video. So the instructions are watch the instruction video, then open the starter project, which is right here. See how it says Google Starter Project? And then return to this page and watch more videos to customize your logo. Because this is just meant to start you out. After you watch this first video and do kind of what it says, then you can go to these other things, and this shows you how to change colors, how to switch costumes, how to jumble letters. And so these are all instructional videos of how to use these features inside of Scratch. And so this is what I would encourage you to do, and this is what you would want your students to do. So it's right now I have it as 12:07. Let's go until about 12:20 and allow you to actually go through this and watch the video, open the starter project, and actually create a project. Okay? So go ahead and do that. If you have questions, go ahead and type them while you're working, or come off mute is fine if you have a question you need to. And it looks like Alyssa Wright got kicked out. And so if anybody can send her a link again, that would be helpful. And so remember, if you're watching this, you're using any of the links that we had, we're actually putting in the chat. But if you have questions for me, that's where you're using the slides Q&A. So the slides.app.goo, this is a separate place for questions. But as far as the chat is concerned, it's here. Some people just also, I noticed Nisha Carey wrote in that, how are you able to follow along and look at your screen? Remember, for most of you, any computer has windows, and you can actually separate windows and put them in one part of the screen or the other. So you can either drag them. If you have a Windows computer, you hold down the Windows key and hit the arrow, and it actually moves your windows side to side. If you have two separate windows. It allows you to pick which ones are on which side. So are you supposed to make your own logo? So what happens is after you watch the video, Jody, you click on the starter project and it should already have the Google logo in there. And so then based on that video, you are basically designing your kind of like a doodle art. You know how there's those Google Doodles? That's kind of what you're doing in Scratch is you're designing that kind of Google art and you're using some of the principles. So as soon as you go into the starter project, you can design stuff, change things. Then you can go back and based on the directions, add something different, like make the G kind of shimmer or flash different colors. Remember, the video is going to walk you through step by step. So I would do exactly what the video does, just so you can practice it exactly. So you might have to go back to the video and hit pause and then do that step and then move the video along. All right, Jody, I'm going to put the link to the class again. Make sure you're in. And for anybody else out there, to make sure you guys got in to the right spot. All right, so I just placed the link in there, the CS First link. Then you sign in, and then once you're signed in, remember you choose to be a student. And then once you're as a student, you have to click on Create your own Google logo. And it actually will have a link underneath and just, it will open up the right page for that Google logo. It's actually a video that looks like what I'm sharing right now. It has the Google logo itself, but it has create your own Google logo underneath, and it has a big elephant and an icon. I apologize if I went too fast for some people. I will tell you specifically, now it's time for you to do X. And so that way you don't have to worry about flipping screens. I will tell you specifically what to do. make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Nick,
Yes.
this is Phyllis. For kids, I've used Scratch before, but I know how to use Scratch. But this is where there's no instructions here. It's for the kids, unless they tell them to click on things and just mess around. There's no direct instructions. It doesn't seem like.
So in the videos, when you watched the video, did you see how the instructions said click on this particular?
The start, yeah, just click start, and the Google thing comes up, and you change the letters to something else. That's about it.
Right, and then so that's what the first part of the lesson was, and then underneath it has step by step for instance, if you wanted, they call them add-ons, but basically the first part was just to kind of change each letter. But as far as the next part of the lesson is those add-ons. So if you go back to that first video, you'll see a bunch underneath of that. And
I saw that.
And if someone clicks on there, it actually walks you through and says, this is what you need to click in order to make your D shimmer or something like that.
Okay.
And so it walks you through those steps. So it really is prescribed into a small amount. It's not saying this one video is going to show you everything. They would have to click on different videos.
Okay,
And that's for this one in general.
Is there any way for you to know if they clicked on these videos or did what they're supposed to do?
Since all those are kind of considered add-ons because it's more of like a creation, what you can do is when the project is, when they've completed, they can actually share the project with you. And
Okay.
so that's the kind of the ending part that we haven't talked about yet. I just wanted you guys to be in there to kind of see. And there is some tracking, so I'll be able to show you what part of the assignment you've done.
Okay, Nick, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, feel free to come off mute if you need to ask specific questions like Phyllis did. I'd like that.
Okay, it's Jody. I saw the video. How do I get back to the Google Word to do the stuff?
So after you watch the video to the right, you see how it said starter project? Did you see that? You see starter project?
On my computer, it was below the presentation, the video.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it may have been smaller. I gotcha. So depending on it, but you're going to be looking for, after you hit the start button, and the start button could be below, you're going to look for something that says links, and it'll say Google Starter Project. And when you click on that, it will open up the exact project that you should be using inside of Scratch. And it'll actually load up on a new tab.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to give you about 1 more minute of looking at this, and then we'll take some more questions. Yes, Stephanie, I think that is important that it does create a Scratch account, because it links it to it, but it's not necessarily saved unless they are signed in. And so we'll talk about that steps. I just wanted you guys to all go through it, but that's definitely good. And it is a first step thing that they need to do, is so they have their stuff saved over time.
Is there a way to save it after you finish?
You need to have an account in order to save it.
Yes, that's correct. And that's what I'm about to go over now. All right, so if everybody would do me a favor, no matter where you are, come back to our meeting. You can just leave things as is. Stephanie brought up a good point. When you first come in here and you're thinking, okay, well, kids are going to be turning this in, they're going to be doing things. If I'm going to be using Scratch a lot, how do they save them? And so just like it gives you an account itself for CS First, they could use that same account and username for Scratch. So at the top right, it'll say join Scratch or sign in. I click on sign in, I already have a username and things like that. So if students already have one, they can, but if they have not, they click on join Scratch and it allows them to create a username. Now it's up to you all on how you have your students do that. I would just have them use the same CS password. That way they're typing it in to get there, and then they can also go, if they want to make one on their own for their own personal projects, that's fine. They could have 2 usernames, but I like to keep it the same. I know your students are also used to having like a student number and doing it that way. You can choose it that also. But again, they'll even say here, don't use your real name. So they would create a username and a password in order to save their projects. So that would be a step that I would do. It does say that in the lesson guide is to have them create and save a spot, but it doesn't do it necessarily in the tutorial. So there's a lot of like, I guess behind the scenes stuff that the lesson guide teaches you as a teacher, like here's a little hint to do. So definitely it's worth reading those. All right, so let's see how you guys feel. So just, and you can write in the chat area inside of the meeting anything that you noticed about this, about using Scratch, using the program as a student. That was a great point out about the Scratch being able to sign in, but there's other things that you want to point out that either people have done or people, say, well, how would I do this with X students? Please feel free to write those in there. We are scheduled, just for everybody to know, we are scheduled to stop at 1 o'clock. So this is 11:30 to 1.
Hey, Nick, this is Stephanie. I just wanted to chime in really quick. I've actually used CS First in combination with Scratch a lot.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of teachers don't know that Scratch actually allows you to have your own board where your students can share stuff in them.
Yes.
And that I did put in the little thing over there on the side that if the students try to use their name, Scratch will actually ban their account. This is something I just found out just recently. I used this in March.
Like their real name.
They use their real name,
yes.
Even though it tells them don't use your real name, they use their real name, and then Scratch will literally come in there and actually ban the account. And the only way for them to get past that is to start a whole new account.
Yeah.
So just
Good.
some things to point out. It is probably best just to use the CS First login.
I think it is, and then if they want to do something on their own, again, that's on them. But I think that's good for your projects because then you can match those same numbers with whatever the student is doing and presenting. But as Stephanie was talking, I just signed in under my account, and there's actually a project page, which is nice, and you can actually look at the entire project itself, and it talks about the instructions. So whenever you are on your particular sign in or whatever, you're going to have the project page, and back. You're actually seeing the inside. What I can also do is when I'm signed in, let's make this full screen so everybody can see. When I'm signed in, you see I have a profile, I have my stuff, so it keeps all of my projects in here. You can see things that I put. I also can create what is called like a studio. And so the studio basically allows me to have a place where other people can add stuff to, almost like a projects page. And so when you create a studio, then you can, so here's one of the Scratch camps I did a while ago. I can have a page where all of the students, or actually I can move it once they've shared it with me, either way, you can see all their projects in here. So it's one place, almost like a place for them to go for these items. And so Scratch, yes, there's a lot to it beyond just what we're doing inside of CS First. But there's lots of tutorials right there on the screen. So one of the things I just clicked on was ideas, and then it says choose a tutorial. And so it will actually teach you different parts how to use Scratch. So some of these were incorporated inside of the CS First videos, but some of them are just here, like here's getting started. And so there's an actual video that walks you through the steps inside of Scratch. So even if the CS First video has them doing something specifically, tied to Google or something else, you still have the ability to have any tutorials when you're in a project just by clicking up at the top where it says tutorials, and you get to this page. And so this is also a place where students can kind of create and learn on their own as they're like, oh, we didn't even talk about adding a backdrop yet, but I'm going to learn on my own and add it to my own scene. The way that Scratch is set up is you have your coding area where you can drag and drop items, and each code has different colors. So you can see the code itself is in the block, and different colors allow you to do different things. When you think about events, events are when an action is made. So like when the flag is clicked or when a space bar is pressed, something will happen. And then you have different controls such as loops and waiting time, stuff like that. There's even sensing of like colors or like when the mouse is touching something. So all of these are just different areas of coding that you can do. We're not necessarily teaching them all necessarily about Scratch. We're doing it kind of incrementally, doing different things. So that create a logo activity is kind of a, it's not necessarily the basic, but it's one of the kind of basic to introductory type activities because it allows you to do a lot, but also it can be really simple too. Inside of Scratch, some other things just besides the coding area to be aware of. So see, I can move things in and out of the coding area. So play sound, meow until done. So I mean, I can do all that, and that's basically setting up the coding for what's going to happen. So this would actually, as soon as I hit the, there we go. It did the meow until it was done. Besides the code, you have costumes. So let's close this out. A costume basically is taking your character or your sprite and being able to control different things, such as changing the color. So if I want my cat to be purple now, I can make him purple. There we go. So now I got a purple cat. You can duplicate sprites. You can have them move different features. So like this one, if I were to rotate it or something like that, I could click on it and allow it. But right now, this is costume 1. Notice costume 2. See how it changes? So that actually shows movement. So when someone duplicates a costume, basically they're allowed to control what's going on that costume. So just by clicking back and forth, you can see it looks like my cat is walking just by having those 2 movements. So that's the idea behind the costumes, is being able to show basically in a paint type feature different areas. So this is the same area for background. They can draw, they can add text, they can paint certain areas. And then last but not least, you have sounds. So you can kind of create your own sound or use sounds that are already in there. Reverse them, fade them in, go all sorts of ways. So the project area is just meant to show you the coding, the costumes, and the sound. And then to the right, this is actually what's happening inside of the coding, like what your coding makes happen. And so then at the bottom, you have your sprites and you have stages, which allows you to add a background. So now this cat is now on a baseball field just by adding that. Now, if I look to the code, there was no code involved with that because we're just setting the scene. But if I wanted to change the background in mid-view, or after maybe the cat walks forward, and then once it reaches home plate, the background changes and I have some sort of home run thing or whatever, I could do that. I would just have to add a different background and then use the coding to tell it when to change. And so the idea behind Scratch is just to allow you to play and do those things. the CS First kind of gives the purpose for doing those items. So now I want to go back to, well, let me stop. Just make sure there's no questions just on Scratch in general. This is being recorded, so Anthony will make it available to everybody through the district sites, I'm sure. Yeah, it's possible, Hubert, to add external logos to blend them in with the Google logo. Yep, and have both interacting. Yeah, as long as you add different sprites in different areas, you can have them run simultaneously or pop in. Again, that's kind of all about coding. Can a graphic be put into a Google slide? You could do a screenshot of the graphic, but the actual running of it, not necessarily, unless you created some sort of video recording of it. And then if it's a video recording, of course, you could embed it into a slide so it actually shows it. What you can do is embed them on a Google site. And so that's also a nice feature, is to be able to embed any project. So when I click on share, I have the ability to copy the link. And when I copy that link, if it's a project that's shared so other people can see it, I can, for the public, then I can give them a link or copy this embed code, and that could be put inside of a Google site, and then everybody could see all of the works that students may have done. So that's a way to kind of make it publicly facing without someone having to have a Scratch account or go to Scratch, and just kind of putting it in your own area. All right, just double check, make sure there's no other things there. Okay, so let me pull out of this and let's see what happened on my end as a teacher, because I want you to be able to see that and what's going on. So I am at CS First, but I'm actually logged in as a teacher. Notice it says teacher on the right. Just watch my screen now. You don't have to be a teacher yet. And when I click on my classes, it's going to show all my current classes. And you can see I have many classes, and I just added a bunch here just to show you. You could have different classes and have different codes for each class. But if I go to the people here, notice it looks a lot like Google Classroom, right? It's got the people and it's got the activities. If I go to people, it's going to list everybody who joined the class. And it's going to show me what you're working on, and it automatically shows me your Scratch profile. Okay, so that's kind of nice too. So then I can see what you were working on. There's everybody's passwords. Notice nobody has a name. I can also edit this to make it easier for myself, even though their username is 3947088. I could change it to whoever's name that is. Okay, so you can see that as a teacher. So now, how do I find out what's going on with the students and the activity? Well, if I click on just this first person, create your own Google logo, it's going to take me to a student progress page. So it didn't matter who I clicked on, and it shows that we have 15% complete. We got a couple people at 11%, a couple at 22, 44. So you can see the percentage of activities completed. And so that means how many tutorials. So there was 1 of 3 here. And so some people have done 2 of 3. And then the create your own logo, because this is for the entire theme called create your own logo. There's the next steps, which has 3 videos, and then that one has 2. So I can actually click and see what parts they are on. So this student has completed create your own Google logo video, but they haven't taken the survey and they haven't done the wrap up, which shares their project. So it actually walks them through how to do every step. You're just at step 1, which I didn't give you enough time to really do. So I was just trying to share this in a short amount of time so you could see both aspects, the student and the teacher. But as a teacher, you could be monitoring this at any way. And so there's one where it says they finished 3 out of 3. Let me click on that one. Look at this. So it has create your own logo. There's the survey. Well, here's the survey itself. Did they enjoy the activity? They did not complete the survey at the end. So as soon as they complete the survey, it actually enabled it for them. But all of these items were not complete. But if they did, then I would be able to see, based on these questions, what they thought of it. So that survey is available. You can see now somebody else just started on the next part, and you can see right there, they're actually active. So I can tell they're actively working. I click on it, and I can see they clicked on that video. So as a teacher, this is where you would go to monitor. You would just go to your class and then click on one of the students, and it would open up the student progress area. I want to go back to just the Google logo. If I have more than one kind of activity involved, then I can look at all of those, but it just bases it on one activity. If I go back one more, I'm back to my class. Here's my class kind of summary. It says, here's your create your own Google logo activity. Here's the activity, and here are the materials. And then I can also view the progress. And so I can even see as a big number, like how many people and what percentage they're at. So depending on the project and what it asks them to complete, that's, to me, this is a good snapshot to be able to tell now. And then the people as what we just saw earlier. Now, I had you guys join because we're not part of a Google Classroom together, but here's another way on the right side here. So I'm going to see if I can make this a little bigger. Let's see. So on the right, when you're in the teacher mode, it says how students join this class. You're basically telling them the same directions that I kind of told you, but it's all listed. And then here, you can see from here, students can create a CS First account or use an existing one, usernames and passwords. And then it has the Share to Classroom button. So when I click on that, it's going to say basically these instructions. So I don't have to type these or copy and paste them. I can just choose my class that I want to send it to. So let's say I want to send it to, let's say I send it to my Minecraft class. And so what is this? What do I want them to do? Is it an assignment? Is it an announcement? Oh, I'm just creating an announcement because I want them to join. And then I click go, and it automatically puts all of that plus the link inside of Google Classroom. And so that's what the Share to Classroom does, is allows you to do that. I know they are getting rid of that Share to Classroom extension. They're also getting rid of the Cast Education one. Hopefully they're going to replace it with something new. But for right now, you can still do that and then still post anything to a Google Classroom, for example, and it posts exactly where you were. So there it is, CS First, all the directions they need. All right, so I'm going to go back to my classes because I'm in the teacher mode. And I want to show you just one other thing because I have additional classes. You can click on Create a Class here, and you just name it and click on a color. So it's the far left. But if I'm in a current class, I can actually add activities. So I'm going to click back on our Palm Beach class. And now I'm saying, you know what? Okay, I've given everybody the created Google logo. Maybe everybody's finished, or I want to give them another option. I can click on Add Activities, and it brings up the curriculum. And so when I scroll down, I can choose any other curriculum. So if I need to view it ahead of time, I can do that. If I need to have this one, so I can pick any one of these basic ones. There's some Hour of Code ones that they've used. There's the Create Your Own Google logo. You can see it's a little bit further down than some of these other ones. So this is meant to be kind of just different activities based on levels. Then as you go down, you have multi-day activities. And so this is where you'll get some of the resources as far as like the things that can be mailed to you when you do a multi-day activity. And so let's say I pick the fashion and design. I click add to class. And then I have to pick what class it gets added to. You can do multiple at once too. And then it's going to say, I'll print my own materials or I want a free kit. And so you can actually preview what comes in the kit, but they will mail it to your house for free. I know there's limited supplies and some things they're not printing anymore, so this won't always come up. So just let you know that. All right, so now I can go to view class, and that assignment has been added for people as a choice. So now you have 2 activities you could choose from. Notice there's 39 students in there, just like there is in the other class, in the same class for that activity, but it shows people hasn't started yet. So that's how you add activities, and all your activities are under the curriculum. So if you want to look even further, any of these, you have them available to check out and view the same way we just did that Google activity. It gives you an overview, it gives you examples, allows them to start and work on it. Notice there's in Spanish too. So if you want to give them the activity so they can do it in another language, that is fine too. It will have to say it on the activity that it is done in that language. So just wanted to share that first of all, and then I'm going to have you go and create your own. So let me get back to my screen that has my slides. I have too many open. All right. So I just showed you some of the resources. So I kind of did that before the presentation, but some other things besides the video lessons that you saw and the lesson plan solution sheets and the kits. And the kits only come when, you know, those are the ones that are printed to you or mailed to you. There is the dashboard, which we just saw, that shows all of your classes. You can archive classes if you don't want them seen. You can even join a class as a teacher if you needed to. Once we want to look at an activity, remember it's in our class, we can just click on View Activity. For each activity inside of the teacher resources, when you actually open up the materials section, it will give you solution sheets. So if there's questions and things that are asked, if there's a lesson plan specifically that goes with it for each one, you can click on that and print that out or look at it. There's even informational flyers for each kind of section. So that's all provided. This is the dashboard that we just saw. The green, excuse me, the green kind of marker or place mark is just showing that they're currently working on the activity. And if the student submitted a survey, it will show the little graph there. All other indicators are just showing current progress. So we saw somebody's green over here and a little dot was green. It just shows that they were actively working on that. There is a CS First help area. So at any time you need to get help, it's this CS First help. It's also, if you go up here, you can go to the About section or to the question mark, and there's the Help Center. So either place, the About section just tells you more about the program, and then the Help section is the question mark. So that is available. So now, as far as troubleshooting and having tech limitations and things like that, remember I'm giving you a copy of the slide, but also this link is basically just going to share some common issues. It's also listed when you get the entire plan for CS First. So if we go back to our resources area, There's classroom checklists, teacher materials, all of those things. No matter what I pick, it will walk us through. So from introduction to learning what it is, learning about CS first, reviewing the curriculum, test driving. So all of this that I'm doing today also has those materials. Here's the starter guide. Here's a guide for guardians. So for people who are doing it with their child at home and you're trying to help support them. So they pretty much thought of everything to help students do this within this Google area. Celebration certificates, and then backup plans too, if this is more of troubleshooting stuff. So that's where the contingency troubleshooting plans are. So that's what this is. All right, so now with the time we have left, I'm going to have you all create a class. And so this time you're going to go to CS First, but this time you're going to do g.co/CS First and do sign up. And by doing sign up, it'll allow you to this time choose that you are a teacher. Okay. And there are, let's see there. There's an area with the little bird and just say, I'm a teacher, and sign in with your Google account. And so I'm going to give you a second there, and I'm not going to go away from this slide. If you have a question on what happens after it, I'll just show you. Once you log in as a student, you are going to go ahead and tour the the dashboard, and then if you want to, you can actually create your first class. All right, so go ahead and log in and make sure you say I'm a teacher this time. Roger, I'm not sure if this has a link to the portal, but we'll make sure that there is some access to make it easier for them to get to it. I would continue to kind of run it through your classroom. So if you are using Google Classroom, I would make it just kind of a connection there, and maybe add that resource if it's something you're using in your classroom, add it as a resource or an announcement for your students to be able to do. That way they're always going through one place and they don't have to go to a million places. Now, as far as access for you to have access, yeah, I guess that would be a good idea to put it as a district link to make it easier for you to access. Maybe that's more what you were asking, Roger. So let me know if you need any help with getting started as a teacher.
Hi, Nick.
Yes.
Can you send us the link, please, so we can sign up as a teacher?
It's the same link you went in before. It's just CS First. And so I'll put it in there. That's not a problem. But yeah, it's the same place you go that you signed up for a student, but you're just signing up as a teacher this time. So it's, I'll just put it in the chat. How about that?
They have to sign out as student, though. I tried doing that, and I had to sign out as student first.
Yes. Yes, you would, because you're probably automatically still signed in. I had you do as a student first just because I wanted you to see that in. But yeah, typically you're just going to be always in as a teacher. Let's find it, chat area. There we go. All right, so. There, I just put the link in there again for anybody else. Thanks, Melinda, for telling us to sign out as a student. All right, after you sign in, you're going to say you're a teacher. And then after you say you're a teacher, then your dashboard should be able to come up. And that will allow you to see the same thing I was showing on the screen. Now, you don't have any classes, so you would actually have to then create a class. Even though there's no students in there, you could create a class and add any activities to it that you would want. So Tracy asked the question, is this implemented through Google Classroom or is this on its own? It is on its own, although we can use Google Classroom to kind of assign things and tell them, hey, go check out, this assignment in your CS First, and giving them the link. That's the way I would probably do that. There was a question also about any suggestions for toggling between languages. Students don't speak English, or a teacher doesn't speak Creole or Russian or Spanish or something like that. I would, as much as possible, depends on, because the curriculum does not come in those languages. And so, unless it's one of the common ones that it says it comes in like Spanish as an extra. But what I would do is try to use your other tools that can make languages be in other languages. For instance, the Immersive Reader. There's actually a Chrome extension called the Unofficial Immersive Reader, and that will make any text that you highlight on a page translated into a different language and be read to you. So that's a tool I would use. As far as if the teacher doesn't speak those languages, they have to be able to show those students how to use that part of the Immersive Reader icon, or be able to see if the the closed captions can be translated to a different language. I'm not sure if those do translate.
Thank you.
Sure. That's most of the mineral questions. I am going to, Dana asked the question, is this good for 6th grade math, given the huge amount of curriculum we need to cover? I think of it as, in 6th grade, there are some things, I don't know if it's going to be as focused on your curriculum, but it could be a way for them to apply that curriculum. So there's ways that they can use their understanding of like the coordinate grid and being able to use some of the coding factors that we have. There's actually math coding things where you can do if-thens based on where something is located on the screen, and maybe even push in equations, or like if x equals 5, then do this, that type of thing. So that would be a way to kind of expand it, but I don't know if it would directly address your needs on that curriculum. All right, I know we're about out of time here, and so I'm just going to stick around for a couple minutes to see if you need any more questions answered. But just remember, you don't really need to know computer science. You just need to know where these resources are. You need to use it as a fun activity, but also something you can monitor and gives you some ways for students to do things. And then remember, it's free, so it's something you can have. It also brings up some good things that we like to do as far as teaching. So it chunks lessons. So it already breaks them into like 5 or 6 minute, kind of mini lessons. That allows the students to digest it easier. And that's how your lessons should be if you're doing it all remote, because too much of a long type of video, they're going to get distracted and they're not going to be able to sustain what you need them to do. And then it also allows them to synthesize their information because they're creating projects and then sharing them back. If you use Google Classroom, you can have a discussion about the project. So there's a lot of integration here. Again, you could assign assignments inside of Classroom, allow them to be creative and publish their projects so other people can see it. And so use Classroom in that way as your publishing area and not just Scratch itself. As far as communicating your CS plans with families, so if any projects you want to share, you can create a Google site and actually embed those Scratch projects in there. You can also have meetings and appointments with your parents to kind of show them what the program is like if they're asking for it. The last part about this is just Google's all Teach From Home resources. If you're not familiar, teachfromhome.google.com is one of the resources you could go to. And then this g.co/edu/COVID-19, also another place to learn more resources. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody. I know this was a lot in a short amount of time, but I tried to give you a place where you could go to for resources, but also something that could get you started. Like, hey, I'm really interested in this. I want to dive into this more. I want to try more lessons. So now you know how to go into it as a student, and you know how to get started as a teacher. So really, it's the same logins. Either choose student or teacher, and then the teacher creates the class with the assignments, and then the student joins via the code. All right. I'm going to hang out. Just feel free to come off mute and ask questions. Is there any, April had a question, is there guidance of what grade is appropriate for K-12 and 3-5, or shall I decide on my own? I would say, April, would probably decide on your students. Pick things that interest them, because you may be surprised something that may be more complicated would also be more interesting for your students. So they might be able to handle that versus, picking something they're not a strategy or a lesson or activity they're not interested in, but it's easy, then you might not get buy-in either. So I would kind of decide on your own, but I would definitely try some of those activities out. Try a basic one. Try things your kids might be interested in, and try doing it yourself and saying, oh yeah, I know my students can do this. Anthony added, this is a good opportunity for project-based learning. See anything else?
Nick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I created the teacher account. Is it going to be the same like username and password when I go back in?
It's going to be, if you created your teacher username and password, is that just your normal Google account for Palm County?
Oh yeah, I did click to use the Google account.
Yeah, you should be good. So every time you log in to your account using your Palm County Schools one, then you should be able to be in CS First as a teacher.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. The recording will actually go to Google Drive, but I think since Anthony's hitting the record, he's going to have to post it to share. Can I give teachers the at-home website again? Sure. So I will pull that up. Oops.
Yeah, and Nick, while you're doing that, I just wanted to say, if you have any questions relating to like housekeeping or the event or anything, just shoot me an email about that. Let's keep our questions specific here to things that Nick can answer, because we only have him for a little bit amount of time. You're stuck with me for the whole school year. But yeah, you know what Nick was saying, from what I've read, this event will end up in my Google Drive. I've just got to, I've got to make sure that it's going to be in a format that A, it can be shared, and B, I can end up putting it on the e-learning course. So I've got a little bit of learning to do this week and this weekend, but it will be posted and available sooner than later.
All right, and teachfromhome.google.com is the home website for Google.
Can students show the teacher their screen so the teacher can talk them through the activity in Google Meet?
Yes. Yeah, you can give a student the ability to present.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else feel comfortable coming off mute? You are fine. Let me try a different link since that's not working.
Anthony, while he's doing that, can you tell us about attendance for today?
Sure, I'd be happy to. If you're doing this course to fulfill one of the PD buckets that you've got to do, you just need to make sure that you enroll in the course through e-learning, and it's easy to find. Just type in your search CS First. Okay, great. So you'll be good to go as far as attendance is concerned. All you have to do for our courses is launch the event from the course. So even if you watched it already, if you just hit the launch button, it'll count you as attended. You've got to do the survey, which is the third task, and the second task, the one right in the middle, you just have to get the reflection form. It's really buried. It's kind of hard to find. But fill that out and then save it and upload it into the middle area, that second task where it says upload evidence, and you're good to go. If you're having trouble finding the form, there's a little space up at the top of the course that says view additional, gosh darn it, I'm drawing a blank. View additional details is what it's called, and it's orange when you roll over it. If you click on that, the reflection form is in notes and attachments. But listen, I know I don't have a visual here to show you. If you're having any issues or questions just about where to find that reflection form, just feel free to email me. I'll walk you through it. Nick, you and I talked months ago about this huge plan our district had to get all 14,000 of our teachers, get them some strong PD going into the school year. And right when we're getting ready to start things, I think last week, our learning system was completely revamped, and nobody recognizes it at all now. It looks completely different for instructors and teachers. So everyone's just like, how do I do this?
Right. That's hard.
So, yeah, always perfect timing. You know how it is.
Yeah, I know. There's always some new initiative that's like, what? They changed this right now?
Yeah. So that's why I say, folks, don't be bashful, and it's not just with the courses that I put together. Don't be afraid to reach out to your instructors. They're going through this too. I mean, all of us are trying to learn how to use the new e-learning system. So, we just obviously, first of all, we want to get you the knowledge and the skills. Hopefully all of this stuff that you're doing is going to be helpful as you start to do your online teaching. But then, of course, we also want to get you your in-service points, to sort of reward you for doing all this work. So any way that we can help you with that, of course, we're happy to do.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else on that needs questions answered? We did put the new link in there, so you can get to it. They actually, Teach from Home has now been changed to Teach from Anywhere .google. So it's an automatic thing, but for some reason it's changed. So I'll make sure I change it on the slide deck. Let's see what else. I think that's most of it. You're welcome, everybody. Feel free to reach out to me if you have anything that you want to do.
Nick, Audra had one question. We'll go ahead and address that, and then I'm probably going to stop the recording. She asks, can students work collaboratively in groups?
So inside of Scratch, they don't allow it. It's more personalized here. And so it's not meant to have this big group project. You would have to share kind of your project with someone and then have a different version, kind of like the old days. So Scratch wouldn't have kind of a collaborative mode. And then as far as the class designing of something, you could, create a Google Classroom assignment where students are doing certain parts and each student contributes a part. That I've seen done just because then people are able to take the coding from one thing and then they add that coding from the first person who started, and then they kind of take that and add to it themselves and then pass it on to the next person. So you could essentially take one project and keep on adding different versions collaboratively, but not at the same time in real time. You're welcome, Audra.
All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and I just want to say thanks for hanging with us here today, and thank you, Nick, for all the wonderful knowledge that you've bestowed upon us here today. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.